Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a big board best ball draft over on Underdog Fantasy. This is a $10 fantasy football best ball draft. The prize pool is $1 million, $200,000 to first place. If you guys are new to Underdog Fantasy, make sure you click on the link in the video description. If you use my link, you get a $100 first match deposit bonus. So you deposit $100, they will give you an additional $100. If you deposit $20, they will give you 20 additional dollars. It's just up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. If you're new to best ball, the biggest difference between best ball and redraft fantasy is that in redraft, you edit your lineup every single week, whereas in best ball, you do the 20-round draft for the big board drafts. Once we get later into the fantasy offseason, it's only 18 rounds, but you do the draft, and then the computer automatically puts in your highest scoring players in your lineup every single week. So you draft it, you forget about it, and maybe, just maybe, you come back in January and win $200,000. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below if you're new. Make sure you leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. Leave a comment as well. I have gotten some comments about wanting to do a real fantasy football mock draft. We are going to be doing those. The biggest issue right now, though, is in March, April, May, really prior to June, the ADPs on these websites, besides like Underdog, where actual drafts are happening, are very off to what's actually going to be happening, so I don't even find them to be super useful right now. So that's why we're going to be sticking with the best ball drafts for now. I do love you guys a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and let's get on in to the draft. All right, so the draft begins at number 1 with Christian McCaffrey, followed by Justin Jefferson. We are the number 7 overall pick. Inside of this draft, right now, I honestly do not have a preference on where to draft in fantasy football drafts right now. If you guys have been watching my content for a while, you would know that typically I prefer to pick towards the back half of the first round, closer to the kind of turn picks of 10, 11, or 12. But ultimately, I don't think it makes a huge deal, at least right now, based upon kind of how drafts are going right now. So McCaffrey, Jefferson, Chase, Kupp, Hill, and AJ Brown going in the first 6 picks. We are up here, and honestly, I think I'm going to go with Travis Kelce here. Normally, I am a little bit hesitant to draft a tight end this early in a fantasy football draft. I'm fine taking him at the 11 or 12 pick, maybe even the 10 pick, but at 7, smack dab right in the middle of the draft. At points, that does feel a little bit uncomfortable, but ultimately, there is so much of a gap between Travis Kelce and these other tight ends in fantasy football that at this point, based upon what we saw last year, if Travis Kelce falls to the 10, 11, 12 pick, he's an insta pick, and at pick number 7, I definitely considered him, and that is why we ultimately ended up taking him. He is the clear number 1 tight end in fantasy football, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he finished by 3, 4 potential points per game ahead of the number 2 guy at the position. So after Kelce, we see Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Josh Allen, and then Jonathan Taylor. So Jonathan Taylor is pretty interesting to talk about because I think a lot of people, especially the more casual fantasy football players, are going to be out on Jonathan Taylor because Jonathan Taylor shit the bed in a huge way last season, right? Jonathan Taylor was absolutely atrocious, but I do believe in 2023, we are going to see a strong bounce back out of Jonathan Taylor with a new quarterback, new coach. Everything is going to be better for Jonathan Taylor. While I do understand why people take quarterbacks early on in fantasy football drafts in the first round, I simply cannot do it. I know in regular fantasy football, most redraft leagues, a quarterback will not go inside of the first round, but it is possible, especially if you're playing with kind of someone who might be newer to fantasy football. They see, oh, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. I love these guys. Let me take them in the first round. In best ball, it is a little bit more normal, but I'm still kind of staying away from Josh Allen in the first round. I think that's a little bit crazy. CeeDee Lamb is the 12th pick. The second round opens with Jalen Waddle and Garrett Wilson. So very running back heavy early on, and I think that is going to be the biggest difference between best ball and redraft fantasy football this season, because in redraft fantasy football, I think in most leagues, when you're playing with the guys from your office, people from home that you know, your friends, people from high school, college, these people don't just jam wide receivers early, right? Those people love running backs, and I think there's going to be 4, 5, 6 running backs going in the first round of most normal fantasy football drafts, whereas in best ball, there's a lot of wide receivers going early. Like Garrett Wilson is an early second round pick, which feels disgusting, but people are going to do that. Same thing with Jalen Waddle in best ball. To me, while I know the wide receivers are going to go, right? If I don't go with Amon-Ra, T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, these top end wide receivers are going to be gone, but ultimately I can't miss on Austin Eckler. Now I know Austin Eckler requests a trade off of the LA Chargers. We'll see where he ultimately ends up landing. I think wherever he ends up going, if he does end up leaving the LA Chargers, he will be in a relatively decent spot. I mean, this guy is a touchdown monster. He even tweeted a picture of himself working out. He's like ready to be an RB1 in fantasy yet again next season. The guy's a monster. In the second round, he's just an insta-click, but I do know in normal redraft leagues, it's very unlikely that Austin Eckler falls into the second round, but I'm trying to win the top prize in this tournament, right? I'm not just playing to say, oh, what might happen in a real redraft league? No. I want to win that money. So Eckler in the second round here, followed by Jalen Hurts, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chris Olave, T. Higgins, Breece Hall, Derrick Henry, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, the 3 running back, the robust running back start for Mr. Rob here, Devontae Smith. So looking at what has been selected in this draft so far, very interesting to go 2 quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Definitely something that some people will argue makes sense in best ball. In redraft, if you do that, you are a certifiable insane person. So looking at our start to the draft again, I do not love taking Kelsey at that spot, but I think our team is going to look better for it. And then Austin Eckler, the wide receivers that are coming up here, we are up in just 3 picks. Metcalf off the board are going to be gross. They are not going to be wide receivers that I would want to select in the 3rd round. I love Debo, but who is the quarterback? Is Trey Lance that guy? Who knows? They brought in Mono Man Sam Darnold there. Amari Cooper. Like, where's DeAndre Hopkins going to go? Calvin Ridley. Is he still that guy that he used to be? Is the rust going to catch up to him? I was watching a clip of him. He's trained by the same guy that trains Tua, who I follow on Twitter. And Calvin Ridley looks back to his old form. Could be huge. I love DJ Moore. Now he's in Chicago. Even better. Now, again, do I want to just punt wide receiver? That's probably what we're going to end up doing. So we're probably just going to go running back again. I know the Raiders offense on paper doesn't look the best. They lose Derek Carr. They bring in Jimmy Guap, Jimmy G-Spot, Jimmy Pornstar. Lose Darren Waller to the Giants. Obviously, from a kind of metric standpoint, things look a little gross in Viva Las Vegas, but the team proved to me last year that they are going to jam the rock down the throat of Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs is going to get 1 million touches. Travis Etienne, I could see them bring in another running back. I could see them not being completely sold on Etienne being this crazy workhorse back where I know Jacobs is. Stevenson, I think he's kind of more set in his way as the workhorse back. Dalvin Cook, where is he going? What team is he going to play on? Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously getting drafted. Which team is he going to get drafted to? So there's a lot of interesting pieces. DeAndre Swift, the fucking bastard Detroit Lions bring in another running back. It is absolutely disgusting. They bring in David Montgomery. Why do they do that? Now, I like DeAndre Swift, the player. I love DeAndre Swift, the player. But what are they doing? Why are you bringing in David Montgomery? It's like Jamal Williams 2.0, and David Montgomery might be even better than Jamal Williams. So this is just a ultra tough scene if you are someone who loves DeAndre Swift's talent like myself, because now it's not that he's undraftable in fantasy, but that top of the line, that RB1, that top 3, top 5 RB1 season is basically been fucking punted off, right? This is Sparta hit off the edge. It is not looking very possible. I'm shocked that the Chargers are bringing Keenan Allen back. Genuinely confused about that. Looks like Denver might be shopping Jerry Jeudy is a report. We'll see what happens there. Joe Shiesty available, but ultimately we don't have any stacking partners for Joe Burrow. Is Keenan Allen available? He is. A little too early for him. We're just going to go ahead and go with the best wide receiver available at this spot, and I'm going to go with Christian Watson. Now, this pick of Christian Watson might end up looking very stupid at the end of this season, right? You might say, Nick, why did you draft Christian Watson? You know Aaron Rodgers is gone. He still doesn't necessarily pen the deal with the Jets, but he's definitely not going to be a Packer. Jordan Love sucks, this, that, the other thing. You might make that argument now, and then maybe we get into November, December, late in the season, and we're like, wow, Christian Watson really is that good. It doesn't matter if Jordan Love is this big step down from Aaron Rodgers, or we kind of fast forward there and it's like, Nick, you drafted Christian Watson as your wide receiver 1. The guy is kind of irrelevant because Jordan Love is not playing the best and this offense just kind of went and had a huge decline. Maybe they bring in another wide receiver. Maybe Christian Watson just isn't the guy that he was with Aaron Rodgers. And I understand all of those arguments. And that's what makes drafting right now. It's March. Everyone's talking about March Madness. I love March Madness, but, you know, March Madness isn't back until Thursday, so it's all about football right now. And people say it's crazy to draft right now. Well, sure, you might be swinging and missing on certain players, right? Maybe Watson ends up being absolutely ass, or maybe Watson ends up being drafted in the 3rd round come August because there's a training camp clip of Jordan Love looking like the next Patrick Mahomes. And people are all googly-eyed about him. It's very interesting to draft this early, especially when it comes to the rookies. So pulling the board back up, I've got a lot of suggestions about people saying that they want to see the board more, and that's perfectly reasonable. So after we went with Watson, Drake London, Drizzy Drake London, Mock Andrews, Mock Andrews, Jerry Jeudy, Joe Shiesty, Christian Kirk, and Michael Pittman. A lot of people in my audience do not like Michael Pittman. I understand. He hasn't necessarily been the best in his NFL career. Some people shit on him. But ultimately, this guy is going to get a new quarterback, and the team is going to force this man the ball. He's the clear number 1 wide receiver. So even if he isn't amazing as a player, from a sheer volume standpoint, he could be amazing. I mean, the amount of targets he got last year was insane for how little production he had. So I get people will say, oh, he's not the best, but I really think he's a steal where he's going right now. I love Jameson Williams. That early in the 5th is a little crazy. Justin Herbert the pervert, Lamar Jackson. Interesting to see what happens with Lamar Jackson. So we're looking to be back up on the board here. Basically, the tight end position is now off the board. Some people will say, oh, bully tight end, draft a couple of tight ends early. I think that is, or 2 tight ends early. I think that's a little bit of a crazy strategy. T-Law still available. Nice to see, but honestly, he doesn't really have too many stacking partners here. So we're just going to keep this draft simple. Keep it simple, stupid, as they say, and just go with the best player available. JSN, Jackson Smith Najigma, out of Ohio State, the Ohio State University. There's a lot of opinions on JSN, but I feel like the normal opinion right now, the basic opinion on JSN is that this guy is the WR1, the wide receiver 1 in the NFL draft this year. Now, obviously, landing spot could heavily dictate where JSN gets drafted. But we all know in fantasy football, come August, people get the rookie fever. They get enamored with these rookies, especially when they land in a good spot. So if JSN lands on a team that is going to force feed this guy the rock, or he lands in a spot that people perceive as good, it could be no shock at all to me if we're sitting there in late August, early September doing our fantasy drafts, and JSN, instead of being a 5th round pick, is now a 4th round pick. Now, getting super high in a fantasy football draft, to go super high as a rookie, most of the time you have to be a running back. Most of the time you got to be Jahmyr Gibbs, or you got to be Bijan Robinson, right? Who's going to go super high in fantasy drafts, right? You got to be that rookie running back, that guy, the it guy that is in, right? The people like Breece Hall, the people love, right? Last year, Breece Hall. A couple years ago, Saquon Barkley. Not even Jonathan Taylor got that much hype, but you kind of get what I'm saying. You got to be a running back to really eclipse like the top 3 rounds as a rookie. I think JSN's ceiling is like round 4, but that is still some decent value. And again, if he lands in the right spot, this guy could be a menace. For fantasy football, I love Hollywood Brown right now. My issue with him, though, is we have 0 clue who the quarterback is going to be, because Kyler is going to miss multiple games. How many games he misses is up in the air, but they don't really have a quarterback that I'm sold on in Arizona, so it is a little bit tough. Aaron Jones coming off of the board there. The running backs here are gross. Again, I like Swift, the player. His situation's terrible. I like Pierce. We don't know who the they could bring in another running back there. Dak. Tua. Let's just go with best wide receiver available. I think people are sleeping still on Deontay Johnson, so we're going to go with him. I know people love George Pickens, this, that, and the other thing. And sure, George Pickens is going to make those highlight plays, those crazy catches, the one-hand reach back, Odell Beckham Jr., right? The shit you see on Instagram, the shit you see in the top 10 ESPN Sports Center, right? That's the kind of plays that George Pickens makes. But Deontay Johnson is the number one guy. He gets force-fed the rock by small hands Kenny Pickett. So ultimately, while I think George Pickens might have that crazy uber talent, Johnson's still getting the rock. He had a down year, wasn't scoring as many touchdowns. I think he could bounce back this year. Again, some people don't like Deontay Johnson. I get it. He was definitely a disappointment last year, but I think he is in for a bounce back spot. I think Burks would have been interesting at that pick as well. Again, I'm kind of fading Pickens. If Pickens ends up getting 1 million targets, right? Last year, he didn't see that crazy target share. If he gets a crazy target share, then sure, maybe Deontay Johnson will bust if that is the case, and George Pickens will be the better pick. But I'm not too sure that's what is going to end up happening. Gabe Davis just seems like a clear stay away. Again, the guy has the big play potential, right? He's the best ball guy that best ball players kind of ejaculate over, right? They think about the big play upside. They think about the game where he busts off a humongous reception, right? 70-yard catch, a touchdown. Maybe gets 150 yards in a game, right? Has that crazy outlier game that helps you win in best ball. But ultimately, this is a team that showed nothing when it came to Gabe Davis last year. Gabe Davis was a humongous bust. He got 93 targets, only 48 catches. I know maybe he gets better, but the team did just bring in Trent Sherfield. They're going to bring in other pieces. I just don't see Gabe Davis being that guy this season. I hope I'm wrong because I'm still a pretty big Gabe Davis fan. If you watched last year, I talked a lot about Gabe Davis, and I like him. I think he's a talented player. But is he that guy in the NFL or in this situation? I don't think so. Kadarius Toney in the 7th round. People are talking up Kadarius Toney as the wide receiver 1 in KC. They get rid of Juju. Sure, I get it. The guy can't stay healthy. Normally, I'm someone who says, oh, you can take the risk on injuries late in the 7th round. Why am I taking a risk on Kadarius Toney? I know the upside is immense, just not for me. Just a pretty clear stay away from me. The tight ends at this point are disgusting as well. Javonte Williams in the 7th is really good. I like Deshaun Watson. The problem is, like, I don't love him more than I love Dak Prescott or anything, so I think I'd rather just wait at this point, probably just go wide receiver again. Gonna go with the young talent, Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison, kind of a coin flip depending on where each player lands will, I guess, more impact how I have them ranked, right? They're not the number 1 guy for me, but you can argue number 2 or number 3 between those guys behind JSN. Again, if they land in the correct spot, I'm going to look like a genius. If they don't land in the correct spot, if Quentin Johnston lands in a bad spot, then maybe he's like a 9th round pick, but I still feel like there's some value in that. We're in the running back range where it's pretty funny, right? We got a lot of running backs that people talked up last year, but are kind of just dead right now for fantasy football. Dameon Pierce, I love him. I was drafting him highly last year. They could easily draft a running back. Swift, again, Montgomery cucks him out of a really good scenario. Maybe Montgomery's the better pick at this point at ADP compared to DeAndre Swift. Dobbins is a guy that seems like people buy into him every single year. Let's see what happens with Lamar. Javonte Williams, I love, but it's going to miss games. How deep into the season does he miss? Pacheco, I love Pacheco. If I knew that the Chiefs weren't going to bring someone else in or draft someone else, I would be fully confident, all aboard Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round. But I don't think that's the most likely scenario, right? They could still bring someone in. Mixon, who knows what's going to happen with him based upon, we all know what happened, but let's see what happens with him. Montgomery, never mind. That's disgusting. Montgomery in the 7th round, do not do that. I thought he would get drafted a little bit later. So we've got the veteran backs, Eckler and Jacobs, and we've got a real young receiver core. Besides Deontay Johnson, not like Deontay Johnson is some elder, but he's a little bit up there in age, and obviously Travis Kelce is pretty old. Dak went already off the board. There's still pieces I like, so I'm not really too worried at the quarterback position. In this kind of a draft where it's 20 rounds, you can just draft 3 quarterbacks. Pick your poison. I like Trey Lance a ton. The upside is there. I haven't even drafted him once yet in these best ball drafts. I think I've done 5 or 6 of them already. Done a bunch on the channel. I think Trey Lance is fantasy viable. I think he's a great fantasy quarterback. I don't think he's a great real life quarterback. But we're playing fantasy. We're talking fantasy. So It's just hard because I don't know how good he really is. Like, we just haven't seen it. We have not seen it yet. Again, we have our running backs. We have Eckler, we have Jacobs. If you want to draft another running back, go right ahead. But why would I do that when I could just keep jamming wide receivers? If I was to draft a running back here, it would probably be Cam Akers or Khalil Herbert. But we are going wide receiver. And Jacoby Myers in Las Vegas is just gross. There's no way he's worthy of an 8th round pick. Brandon Cooks in Dallas seems nice, but we're going to go Jordan Addison. Again, we're going to get these young players onto the squad. We have a very young wide receiver core. Again, if Jordan Addison looks great coming out of college, doesn't go to a good landing spot, then maybe this pick looks bad. Maybe I would have preferred the veteran Brandon Cooks. I love Brandon Cooks. I've been talking about Brandon Cooks all offseason before he got traded to Dallas. I was talking about because I love the skill set he has. This guy prints 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL, and now he's a Dallas Cowboy. The only problem with this draft is that we don't have like that quarterback to wide receiver stack. Now, obviously, we could draft Goff, and then Goff ends up with Quentin Johnston on the team, right? We could do that, but we don't know that for sure. But again, we can still take shots on these later quarterbacks. I'm going to star Trey Lance and Aaron Rodgers. I absolutely think it would be so funny if the Jets or if the Packers stiff the Jets, right? If Rodgers doesn't end up becoming a New York Jet, that would be so funny to me as a Dolphins fan because all these Jets fans are talking about Super Bowl this, Super Bowl that, and then Rodgers stiffs them. It would be so funny, especially after they signed Lazard. I don't think Lazard's even all that good, but I do think he's the number 2 in New York. I don't think the team really trusts any of the other wide receivers that they have on their team, right? They have Garrett Wilson, who's great, but outside of that, like Elijah Moore is going ahead of him. Come on. Like, we know if Rodgers is the quarterback, Rodgers uses his guys. He trusts his guys. Like, he'll throw the ball more to Randall Cobb than fucking Denzel Mims. So, not really worried about that at all. Still don't have a quarterback, but I think we're just going to take Trey Lance. And Trey Lance is one of those kind of epiphanies at the quarterback position because in best ball, we look a lot at stacking, but Trey Lance will make his money running in touchdowns, right? He runs the touchdown in himself. We don't necessarily need him to pass the ball a million times for him to end up smashing in fantasy. I also think that, like, it's pretty clear that Mr. Rodgers is gone, so Jordan Love is also interesting. Again, I don't think Jordan Love's great from what we've seen, but maybe with a full offseason of him being the guy, he can perform a lot better. And again, since we haven't drafted a quarterback until this late, normally in a redraft league, you just draft 1 quarterback, maybe 2, forget about it. In a 20-round best ball draft, I'm drafting 3 fucking quarterbacks, even though it's not kind of the normal strategy. Jacoby Myers in the 9th with Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback just reeks, especially with Devontae Adams being there. I love Jacoby Myers in fantasy football in the past because he was the guy in New England. He's not the guy in Vegas. It's a quarterback, not necessarily a step down, I guess, because he's probably better than Mac Jones, but very slightly, just the tip-wise, so I don't know, just kind of gross juju in New England. Again, like, he's going to be decent because he's in the Jacoby Myers situation. Like, he's going to be fine, but I'm not elated to draft Juju. Like, I wasn't elated to draft them as a Kansas City Chief, so why would I be more excited, more pumped up to draft them as a Patriot? Now, maybe he was going higher last year. I don't remember. I didn't draft Juju at all last year. I completely full-on faded him. Right now, the most interesting players kind of to discuss, and I know I haven't even taken a break or breath in this video, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're new to Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use promo code. Just click on the link in the video description for a $100 first match deposit bonus. If you deposit $100, that will give you 100 additional dollars. It's just a up to $100 deposit match. Deposit $20 will give you an additional $20. This draft, again, $10. $200,000 at first, I think. $200,000 first. So we're going to be taking home that prize, of course. Rodgers went, so no need to draft Lazard. No need to draft Lazard. I think Elijah Mitchell's pretty interesting later in drafts, too, at the running back position. We got our tight end, so no real need to worry about that. We could draft Jordan Love later. There's no real stacks with any of these guys that I like. Any of these quarterbacks that are this late. So we're probably just going to end up stackless and maybe draft like Bryce Young or something. Get these young quarterbacks on the squad with rushing upside. Again, maybe Bryce Young quarterback's one of these guys. All right. So looking at tight end, we already have Kelsey, so there's really no need in drafting a tight end here. We could go 1 running back here. Zay Jones, Tyler Boyd, Palmer. Palmer's now kind of dead with Keenan Allen coming back. I don't love Zay Jones. We're going to go running back. We're going to go with A.J. Dillon. Again, I know Aaron Jones is back. Sure, that's awesome. I think Aaron Jones is still the guy on the team. But again, people were hyping up A.J. Dillon to be like a 5th, 6th round fantasy pick last year in the same situation. Now he's getting picked in the 10th round, the 11th round of fantasy drafts in the exact same situation. Sure, with a worse quarterback. But he's still going to get usage. They're still going to dump the ball off to him. He's still very good and is the premier handcuff, in my opinion, in the NFL. He's the best backup running back in the National Football League. So if something happens to Aaron Jones, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries. If something was to happen, he's going to slot into a premier situation. So I like that a ton. A ton for A.J. Dillon. And again, Eckler and Jacobs are our guys. These are the guys that every single week are going to be putting up the points for our squad. I hate that Trey Lance is our quarterback one, but that's what happens. That's what's going to happen this year, especially in best ball, because people are enamored in drafting quarterbacks early. Like, just look at this. In the first 3 rounds, 4 quarterbacks off the board. In the first 5 rounds, 4, 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks off the board. So it's a little bit different. Now, I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case in redraft leagues, but it's how it's going in best ball right now. Again, I have gotten comments about, can you do a regular fantasy football mock draft, right? Not a best ball draft? Yes, I will be doing those. The problem is right now, March, April, even all the way up until like May, the draft rooms, like the ADP is just way off, in my opinion, of what I think is going to happen. It does get a little bit better, so I'm not saying it's impossible for me to do. I will do some of those, but the ADP is just a little bit disgusting, if I'm being honest with you. So we're probably going to hold off on drafting Bryce Young, but so many people only have one quarterback. YOLO, though. We're just going to wait. We're just going to wait. That's the motto. YOLO. We got our running backs. I don't like Sky Moore. I'm going to take the shot on Romeo Dubes. Again, this is more of just a stacking standpoint to get Jordan Love, stack the Green Bay Packers together with Christian Watson, A.J. Dillon, and obviously Jordan Love and Romeo Dubes. Josh Downs could be good. Sky Moore just does not seem like I know he was drafted highly last year. I just don't know if the Chiefs are committed to him. I get it. It's the 11th round, so I understand why someone would take him. I think I'd rather just take the shot on Wandale being the guy in New York with the Giants. Maybe even Hodgins being the guy. Gallup now has been absolutely cucked by Brandon Cooks. Gallup was a valuable pick, I thought. But now I'm kind of just staying away. I know he had a down season last year, but he was hurt, so I won't necessarily kind of point that against him. Bryce Young goes, so we are going to have to draft another quarterback. Maybe we just go Stroud. I mean, Stroud's going to be looking like the first pick to Carolina. I know it's not the sexiest spot, but will it be valuable for fantasy? I think so. And then we just got to hammer in on some running backs before they all kind of die out here. Again, I think Mitchell's a good handcuff for San Fran because if McCaffrey goes down, we know they're going to use another running back. And if McCaffrey doesn't go down, there was games where they kind of paced him back a little bit, and we saw Mitchell getting a bunch of touches. Zeke, depending on where he goes, he's been linked to Buffalo. I don't think he's going to be very fantasy valuable for redraft because you're never going to know when to play him. But I think in best ball, he's going to have games where he scores 2, 3, maybe not 3 touchdowns, but he's going to have a game where he scores 2 touchdowns, gets like 15, 16 fantasy points, and enters your own lineup. Now, with the 2 running backs we have, I don't think that necessarily he'll be in there a lot, but I do think he has that upside that a lot of people aren't talking about. Again, I think Zeke is washed. I'm not saying that Zeke isn't washed, but I don't think he's necessarily like a clear fade this year in best ball. In redraft, he basically is, unless he somehow becomes the RB1 somewhere, which would be not necessarily crazy to say that he could be the RB1 somewhere. Yeah, it would be. It would be at this point in his career. He's just not that guy anymore. Now, again, he's not, I said he's washed. He's not fully washed. Like, the gas isn't fully out of the tank, but you can just see that he's not the same guy he used to be. So he's not that RB1 in the NFL. Alexander Madison got picked already. He's really interesting. It seems like Dalvin Cook might be on the way out. They just brought him back. In terms of some interesting picks we've seen recently, Dalton Schultz seems to be on the move with The Cowboys, depending on where he lands, could be a very good spot for Dalton Schultz. Kamara, again, if he does play all the games next year, which I think is impossible, he could be a smash. If he's not suspended all season and he's only suspended like 6-7 games, could be a smash in the 10th round. I fully believe in that. But that just makes Jamal Williams an even more interesting pick. He already went. I want to see where he went. Jamal Williams, pick 109. Where was he picked here? Jamal Williams to DC Fantasy. He was picked in the 10th round. I think that's a pretty solid pick, if I'm being honest with you. Taysom Hill. Like, once you get to this range in tight end, if you take a tight end, I'm not like, wow, what an idiot you are for taking that tight end. Except for the rookies, I don't see how the rookie tight ends never pan out in fantasy football. They just never do. Gesicki in New England. I was drafting so much Gesicki. I was so excited. Oh, Gesicki could go to the Chargers. Gesicki could go here. Gesicki could go there. And it's like this wet dream that you can have, this metaphorical wet dream where you're so excited. You're like, oh, he can go to this landing spot where he's going to be great. And then it just doesn't end up happening. And it kind of sucks. Not just kind of sucks. It really sucks. All right. And then maybe we go Pickett and just hope the offense is better, but we're not taking him yet. We're going to wait. We're going to wait on that. But we could go Pickett and just have 3 young quarterbacks that I don't love. But again, if any of these guys pan out, we're going to look like geniuses. I'm surprised Hodgins hasn't been picked yet, or Wandale. We only have 3 running backs, though, so we might want to draft another one. Oh, we could just wait. Let's just wait. Let's go Wandale. Even though I do love Rondale Moore, we're going to go Wandale. Again, the situation for the Giants, like, their wide receiver room is just disgusting. They don't have a clear number 1 receiver. They obviously got rid of Galladay because he robbed them, stole their money. It was awful. I was a big Kenny Galladay guy. He sucked in New York. So the team we've drafted is definitely a ragtag team. It's interesting. And normally what I find is very funny is, like, when I look back at my best ball drafts from last year, the ones that did the best were ones where I was like, this team looks kind of gross. When you just knock it out of the park, and especially when you just take the safe approach in these drafts this early on, they're never going to really pay off, right? Like, if I just, instead of drafting Jordan Addison, where did we draft? Yeah, instead of drafting Jordan Addison, if I drafted Brandon Cooks, maybe that was the right pick, but Jordan Addison could pay off in a huge way, whereas I don't think Brandon Cook's necessarily going to smash and be like a top 12 receiver, where I think that is possible for Addison. Again, those rookie guys just have so much value because their ADP is going to shift so heavily because, again, everyone loves rookies. They are addicted to the rookie fever. They have it. Everyone might not have it right now. You might not have it in March. But come after the NFL draft, once you see the landing spots, once they open up more contests on Underdog, people are going to start to fucking ejaculate in their pants when they think about drafting these rookies. It happens every year. But the running backs is a little bit more unknown. It's a little bit more unknown. But hey, Sean Tucker, Rashawn Johnson. I love Tank Bigsby. Like, what's Bigsby? Is fucking Bigsby, is that? Oh, I wish I had Google on my other screen. Bigsby. Is that the guy from Ned's Declassified? I'm trying to think. Or am I just way off? Let me know if I'm way off. That's also, like, for anyone that's my age would understand that, I guess. You have to be, like, probably over 20 to understand that joke, I would think. But not older than, like, 27 to have understood that. Like, I love that show as a kid. And I'm 23, almost 24. I'm getting old, guys. Everyone always says, oh, Nick, you're so young. Basically almost 24. Fucking Kobe. Crazy. Getting old. Not really, though, but you get what I mean. We're going to need another tight end, but again, I'm not looking to reach on one. We could go with one of the younger rookies, but I'm just going to get Zeke again. I think Zeke's just going to, wherever he lands, he's just going to have these games where he crawls into the end zone, and I'm already so secure with Eckler and Josh Jacobs. Again, Dylan's not the best, but I feel so confident with them that I don't feel like I have to just burn a pick to get, like, another. Like, I don't think I needed to smash running back early. I am worried that Pickett's not going to come back to me because I think this guy's going to take Pickett. But it is what it is. If we don't get Pickett, we could just take. I don't think Sam Howell's going to be a starting quarterback, but, like, could Jimmy Garoppolo be decent? enough? Like, have one big game? Yeah, I think so. Like, Baker in Tampa, I don't think Baker's very good, but could Baker... Like, they're not going to draft a quarterback if you're the Bucks, right? You're just going to hopefully suck this year. So you're going to be behind in games where Baker is going to have to throw into the game. So even if Baker doesn't look great, he's going to be in position to throw for a bunch of points because they're going to be down in games. They're going to have to throw the rock. Again, not the best landing spot for Baker, obviously, or a good landing spot for Baker for fantasy, but not great for real life because you kind of just know the team is in a ditch right now, in the gutter. I think Renfro is going to get moved as well, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think they bring in Jacoby Myers and just hold Renfro, so he's probably going to be on another team. That could be a better landing spot. We are going to take Pickett if he falls, though. Pickett doesn't have crazy rushing upside. Why did I say anything? But yeah, we knew he was going to be gone. This guy didn't have a quarterback, two quarterbacks either, and neither does DC Fantasy, so we're going to have to take another quarterback here, even if it's a reach. Because I don't want to go into the season with just fucking Trey Lance and Jordan Love. I'll tell you what. And again, Jimmy isn't great, but he also just doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And with the weapons they have in Las Vegas, he could be good. And maybe he just is clutch and dumps the ball off to Josh Jacobs a bunch, and we end up sitting pretty with a lot of touchdowns that he had, where Jimmy Garoppolo didn't have to do anything, and the boy Josh Jacobs does it all. So we're going to take Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy G-Spot, Jimmy Pornstar. We need another running back. We need 5-6 running backs, and the rest will be... We need our tight end as well. Again, the tight ends in this range are just disgusting. Like, Hayden Hurst is now a tight end 1 in Carolina. Like, I'd rather just take him late and then just hope Kelsey does the rest. If they have the same bye week, that's going to suck because obviously we don't have bye weeks yet, which just throws another wrench into things. Like, imagine we draft Lance, Love, and Guap, and they all have the same bye week. That would be very funny. I mean, the odds of that happening probably very low. Would be funny, though. Not for my fantasy lineup, but it would be funny for me. Again, we're so late in the draft that if I pause or something, it's because I take a drink of water, and I don't feel like we're so deep in the draft. Like, I feel like we're deep enough in the draft where I don't have to just recap everything that's happening. Again, I'm so mad Gesicki went to the Patriots because in another spot could have been wet dream for Gesicki, especially with how late he was going. I think I like Tank Bigsby the most out of these other running backs. Auburn prospect. My friend Bush of Fantasy Stock Exchange, if you guys watch their YouTube channel, Danny and Bush, my friends, he likes Tank a lot. Tank ran behind a bad offensive line and was still very effective. I think he's a really good click this late in the draft for upside. So we're going to go Tank. And hopefully get Nico Collins, who could be the wide receiver 1 on Houston with Brandon Cooks gone. They have Mechie, who I like as well, but I think Collins could be like the guy getting the most targets. And this late in the draft, I mean, they're going to get a new quarterback. It's not going to be Davis Mills. It's not necessarily the best spot to be in, but if you're the wide receiver 1 on any team and you're getting drafted in the 16th, 17th round, I mean, there's just so much value in that. As I'm talking him up, he gets picked, but that's just kind of how I see things. Again, we do need a tight end. I don't think we need to draft 3 because we have Travis Kelce, and we put so much draft capital into Kelce, drafting him with the 7th pick, that if Kelce gets hurt, somehow is a bust, then we're just fucked anyways, right? So there's really no need to, don't be silly, wrap your willy, draft fucking 3 tight ends, right? There's no need to do that. Zero need at all. Because again, if Kelce sucks, our team is probably fucked anyways, right? When you put your first round pick in, like for instance, when you draft Jonathan Taylor in the first round, if Jonathan Taylor sucks again, you are just fucked. There's no way around it. Obviously, if Garrett Wilson, Travis Etienne, DeAndre Hopkins, all these other picks hit and are amazing, sure, maybe you could somehow still win the money. But you need to hit on these early picks, right? If Kelce, Eckler, and Jacobs smash at tight end and running back, our team should be very good. And I'm going to bet heavily that Eckler is going to succeed regardless of what team he's on. Hayden Hurst gets picked, of course, as I talked him up. Again, I'm just going to click on a tight end here at this point. They're going to be in my lineup. Like, Kelce is going to have down games. He's going to have a bye week. So there's going to be a week or two where this other tight end is in my lineup. But it's still not like a top priority of mine to just find that elite tight end. Like, or like that next great tight end. Sure, maybe Fucking Tyler Conklin is fully unlocked with Aaron Rodgers under center. But it's not like I'm screaming to the mountaintops that that's going to happen. So, probably just going to be our pick here. We need another running back. We haven't drafted a wide receiver in a while, so we're going to need some more wide receivers as well. We've picked 17, 18, 19, 20, so 4 picks to go. We're obviously going with Conklin and then probably a wide receiver because, again, at a certain point, the running backs are just as dead as it gets. So if you just somehow draft the guy that ends up being valuable, like what's the difference between Conklin got picked? A lot of people are talking about Washington. Again, I just don't love rookie tight ends. I think Foster Maru could land in a good spot, so I'm just going to wait on tight end again. Fuck it. We have our 1 tight end. We'll just keep waiting. Al Robinson could land in a good spot. Our running back. Let's just go Cordero Patterson. I don't even think he's going to have a good year this year, but I could see him having a role on Atlanta, or if he's not on Atlanta, just having a role on a team. Like, I don't feel like he's just going to disappear. You make the same argument with Jerick McKinnon. Like, these are just... It's just a guy you draft super late that isn't very exciting, but could have a role on an offense. And in the 17th round, right? In a redraft league, you're not drafting in the 17th round. You're not drafting the 18th round. You're drafting probably the first 13 rounds, and then you're drafting a kicker and a defense. And there's no kicker and defense in this, which is awesome. And my favorite part about this, again, is you don't have to set your lineup. You just draft your team. You forget about it, and maybe you come back. I forget about the teams. Like, I don't just analyze every team every week. I do look in every once in a while, like, hey, how's my team's doing? And then I come back, obviously, to pay attention during the playoffs because this is a playoff format. So in week 15, I believe, the start of the playoffs, I start paying attention to things. Week 15, 16, 17, and seeing how things go. I made a couple of my teams to the playoffs last year, and I had a lot of fun watching it. And again, if your redraft teams end up sucking, maybe you found luck in best ball, especially since your philosophy might be drastically different from now until late August. I'm going to be doing drafts all summer long. Hopefully I don't get copyrighted for my singing of Sweet Home Alabama, but you get what I mean. I'm going to be drafted all summer long, having fun doing these drafts. Robinson to the Patriots is just gross. Just absolutely disgusting. I think, where's what's his name? Did he get drafted yet? Tampa Bay tight end. Fuck, what's his name? Oh, no. I wish I was live. Someone would tell me what his name is. The old tight end. Not Gronk. Not Gronk. I'm Googling it. I'm Googling it. He was a tight end. He had, like, 1 really good year. He's on Houston, maybe? Will Houston show up? It's not Brevin Jordan. Fuck. What's his name? What's his name? Oh, no, guys. Houston tight ends. 2022. Come on. Come on. Come on. O.J. Howard. We want O.J. Howard. That's who it was. He's not even getting drafted right now. So we're going to just draft him at the end. Draft another receiver here. Let's go Bouty. Kayshawn Bouty. We drafted a lot of rookies on this team, so if the rookies end up smashing, we're going to look good. Maybe we'll just draft... Since I feel so confident in my running backs, maybe we'll just draft 3 tight ends. Nah, we probably need another receiver. O.J. Howard. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name, and you guys were probably fucking sitting there thinking, Nick, you dumbass. It's O.J. Howard. Figure it out. I've seen rumors of Howard potentially going to a better spot. I could see Foster Moreau being good. I could even see Zach Ertz landing on a team and scoring a couple touchdowns. So maybe we just go Zach Ertz instead. That's probably what we'll do. And then go another receiver. Because the running backs here, at this point, it's like, just close your eyes and pick one, and maybe they end up doing something. I guess that's the same case with wide receivers. I mean, Laviska Shenault is like the wide receiver, too, on Carolina, with Adam Thielen there. Which is pretty funny. Their wide receiver core is just absolutely awful. And Adam Thielen, I wonder where Adam Thielen got drafted. People might really start to love Adam Thielen. I was a big Adam Thielen guy last year. ADP 169. Jeez, that was a steal, whoever drafted him there. Let's see where he got drafted. Adam. Round 14. 163. That's a steal. That's a steal. All right. Let me know what you guys thought about this team. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I mean, the team does look gross, but I feel like the grosser the team, the better it ends up being. Because while our quarterbacks suck, we have the best tight end in fantasy football. We have a great RB tandem, and then we have a lot of high upside wide receivers. So we shall see how this team ends up. I mean, it could end up sucking ass. Again, these rookies might just be terrible. Boutte looks terrible, like based upon how he tested, but his tape is good. So we'll see what happens here. We got a very young wide receiver core, some old ass running backs, and some old tight ends that are good. And our quarterbacks are very young, so could be very interesting. With our last pick, we're gonna go receiver, but the wide receivers back here are just bad. I mean, Russell Gage reworked his contract with the Bucks. Like, how good could Russell Gage be? Unless they end up getting rid of Godwin or Evans, then maybe Russell Gage could be good. Just talks about a lot of players getting traded from Denver. So, like, could Tim Patrick or KJ Hamler become the wide receiver too? Like, there's rumors of Judy or Sutton getting moved. Like, Tim Patrick would be the beneficiary there. KJ Hamler, Sterling Shepard, Tutu Atwell. Justin Ross was a guy I liked, fast as fuck, but got hurt last year. Braxton Berrios of my Dolphins now. Real gritty guy, gritty player. My guy Jalen Tolbert from last year. We're going to go David Bell. I like David Bell a lot last year. Out of college, he looked really good, but did not perform in his rookie year. But again, that was a wonky rookie year, or wonky year for the Cleveland Browns with Watson, Jacoby Brissett, all that. It was just a very weird year. Hopefully you can't hear the fucking train that just drove by my house. I know there's no trains by my house. I don't live by fucking Hogwarts or something, but if trains at Hogwarts, I mean, they did in the video game and it was flying, but hopefully that didn't bother you. It was a truck. So thank you guys for watching today's video. Again, let me know what you guys thought about our team. To recap the squad, we got Trey Lance, Jordan Love, Jimmy Guap. Our running backs are Eckler, Jacobs, Dillon, Elliott, Zeke, Tank Bigsby, Cordell Patterson. And then our receivers are Christian Watson, Jackson Smith Najigba, Deontay Johnson, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Romeo Dobbs, Wan'Dale Robinson, Keyshawn Boutte, David Bell. And our tight ends are Travis Kelce and Zach Ertz. So let me know what you guys think. Is this team disgusting? Do you love the team? Gardner Minshew, the starting quarterback of the Colts? Definitely not, but that is definitely an interesting late pick at quarterback. I'm going to let the draft close out, though. Before we exit here, again, make sure you like the video, subscribe, use the link in the video description if you want to sign up to Underdog Fantasy. I'm going to move my face a little bit here so you guys can see the board. Throw myself at the top right. Maybe we'll just throw ourselves in the top right from now on of all these drafts. But I do hope you guys did enjoy, though. It does mean a lot to me that you guys show support. I mean, it's crazy. It's only March. I see a lot of support. I've been doing a lot of shorts, YouTube shorts about fantasy football. I think that YouTube shorts aren't necessarily the best way to get a lot of information across because they're only a minute long, but I do think it is a good way to grow my channel. And I think, you know, when these free agency moves happen, you don't need a fucking 10-minute video of me explaining why Juju to the Patriots, what kind of a move that is. It's better just a minute long, give my quick thoughts, get in, get out. So make sure you guys subscribe. I've done 5 of these drafts, 5 big boards, 1 little board. So going to look to do a little bit more. How close to filling is this? 76% fill. It closes when the draft happens, which starts April 27th. So make sure you guys hop in if you want. I love you guys all. Not trying to stall anymore. Have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, good boy.